Like and subscribe to PAL's Fundamentals for more content like this. Sources linked below. Welcome you to a Faroes News Report. Our mission today is really just to extract the key information from several sources, giving you the facts without adding our perspective. Opinions should be diverse, facts, no.
Exactly. We've gathered some recent reports about the Faroe Islands. The aim is simply to lay out the main factual points from these reports. Focus on the news itself.
That's the plan. We're looking at how this self-governing archipelago is, well, quite actively shaping its future. Think international trade deals, innovative local healthcare. We'll touch on trade, defense, local projects, digital health. Let's get started with the first set of facts. Okay, first up, economic and international stuff. Recent business developments and global collaborations look like the Faroes have been busy.
They have, and it helps to remember the Foreign Affairs Department, that started 27 years ago. Then a dedicated foreign minister came in 2008. That structure has been pretty important for Faroes business, especially with all the fishing resources. Good trade deals and market access are, well, vital.
That background is key. So, speaking of trade, some significant agreements lately. What about the one with China?
Right. In April, Siri Stenberg, the Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister, signed 2 health agreements with China. The main idea: make it easier for Faroes exporters to sell more types of products to China's huge market. We're talking 1.4 billion consumers.
Okay, so cutting through red tape, essentially. What was it like before, and what's changed now?
Before, it was a very limited list of fish they could send, and under tight conditions. Now, basically all wild-caught fish, plus fish meal and fish oil, can be exported without unreasonable hurdles. This is a big deal for companies like Havsbrún. They do fish meal, oil, and salmon feed, so it affects the whole aquaculture chain.
And isn't there some specific context making this China deal even more, well, timely?
Absolutely. You've got these large Capelin quotas, 542,000 tons for 2024, 513,000 for 2025. Plus, there's the issue with the EU. Their temporary approval for fish feed might not get extended past 2026 because of a Capelin dispute.
Ah, right. That dispute over shared stocks and quotas.
Exactly. So opening up new, stable markets like China becomes strategically crucial for, long-term stability.
Makes sense. And beyond China, there was another important agreement signed, this time with Brazil.
Yes, in June, Siri Stenberg signed a health agreement with Brazil, too. This one's really key for the salted fish exporters. And it wasn't an overnight thing. The Raw Fish Buyers Association and the ministry, they'd been pushing for this for quite some time.
Was there a competitive issue before for those salted fish guys?
Yeah, definitely. The Faroes compete with Norway, for instance. Norway could export easily to Brazil's market 213 million people. Now, this agreement means Faroes businesses can produce and ship salted fish directly to Brazil. No need to go via other authorities. It sort of levels the playing field.
Okay, that must open up real opportunities for adding value. What's the expected economic impact of these deals?
They're seen as more than just trade facilitation. It's about creating value, sparking more interest in production and export. We're talking potentially millions in value, maybe much higher profit per kilo. Specific companies set to benefit. Names like Varhorn, Delta Seafood, Sandoy Seafood, Kosin come up.
Right, so a direct path to better profits and diversifying markets. Important stuff. These deals show the global side, but what about the workforce behind it? Any news on Nordic labor union collaboration?
Yes, Verkafolk, that's the Faroes Workers Union. They've now got a seat on the steering group for expedition and storage within the Nordic Transport Worker Alliance. And Harry Reinheim, he chairs the Torshavn Workers Union. He recently hosted Danish union reps from ports that handle a lot of Faroes trade.
Why is that link with the Danish ports and unions so significant?
Well, a huge chunk of goods coming in and out of the Faroes goes through those specific Danish ports. So closer cooperation between the unions makes sense for smooth operations, tackling shared issues, aligning workers' interests across the supply chain.
And what did the Danish group see during their visit?
They visited some big employers, Bakkafrost, Faroe Ship, the port of Torshavn. Apparently they were received well. The Faroes union folks gave them the rundown on the local labor market standards, challenges, how things work, even about the strike last year.
What was the takeaway? Their impressions.
Reports say they were impressed with the standards, especially at Bakkafrost. Noted its global position in aquaculture and innovation. And the feeling is that this visit really strengthened the cooperation between the Faroes and Danish workers. Better understanding, closer ties.
Sounds productive. Okay, let's switch focus now to defense and security. There was a NATO parliamentary visit recently.
Yes, the Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee and the ministry co-hosted about 40 parliamentarians from NATO countries. That's a pretty large delegation.
40, wow. What did they do while they were there?
They had an info session at Hotel Faroe. Jarni Hammer, who chairs the Foreign Affairs Committee, talked about the broad political support for NATO in the Faroes. And Bernie K. Peterson, the Minister for Emergency Preparedness and Security, he spoke about his responsibilities, too.
Did they get to see any facilities or learn about specific operations?
They did. Officials and people from the university gave presentations, Faroe's security priorities, crisis management, what Arctic Command does there. They also went up to Sornfelli, saw the old NATO station. Landsverk, the road authority, gave a tour and talked about the new NATO radar that's coming. Oh, and they visited Atlantic Airways Aviation Academy. Got to try the helicopter and plane simulators.
Quite the itinerary. Where do they head next?
It was part of a wider tour. They came from Denmark and went on to Iceland afterwards. Shows that interconnectedness in North Atlantic security.
Okay, so definitely a lot happening on the international stage. Clear signs of the Faroes' growing engagement. Let's bring it back home now. Domestic developments. Right, let's look at some key things happening within the Faroe Islands. Healthcare, digital infrastructure, stuff impacting daily life.
Yes, several notable projects are moving forward, efforts across different areas to improve services locally.
Let's start with healthcare in Suðuroy. That's the southernmost island. Often feels a bit remote. What's this pilot project about?
It's based at Suðuroy Hospital, aimed at really improving healthcare for residents there. The main thing is digital consultations. It lets patients get specialist advice without having to travel off the island, which is a big deal.
Huge for convenience. How does it work? Which specialists are involved?
The consultations happen right at Suðuroy Hospital. They have the tech and staff support. Patients can bring family too. Right now, the Family Center and Child and Youth Psychiatry are using it, but plans are to add more lung diseases, neurology, diabetes.
And how is it coordinated between the hospitals?
There's close cooperation set up between the specialists at the National Hospital in Tórshavn and Suðuroy Hospital. Clear roles defined. The goal is a sustainable model, something that might work for other remote areas too.
Anything else being developed besides the digital consults?
Yes, palliative care. A new service is being set up in Suðuroy as part of this pilot. They've appointed a nurse to coordinate it and handle related digital consults, offering guidance to patients, families, staff. They'll assess the needs during the pilot too.
What about getting ready for surgery if you do have to travel to Tórshavn?
Good point. After the summer, patients will be able to do pre-surgery prep, like blood pressure checks and blood tests at Suðuroy Hospital. The idea is to make travel easier and ensure patients are all set when they arrive at the National Hospital, streamlining things.
And the timeline for this pilot, when will they decide if it continues?
The pilot runs from July this year until September 2025. Then there'll be an evaluation to see if it becomes permanent. Prospects look good, though. Seems like a solid way to improve healthcare in Suðuroy, better quality, closer to home, more innovative.
Okay, moving from health to R&D, research and development. What's the latest on tracking investment there?
There's a survey happening right now. It's trying to gauge how much Faroes companies and institutions are actually investing in R&D. And just to clarify, R&D means creative, systematic work to get new knowledge or find new ways to use existing knowledge.
Why is measuring this so important for the Faroes internationally?
Having reliable stats is crucial if they want to participate in international R&D projects and, compare themselves to others. The survey uses the standard OECD format, so the data is comparable globally. It's actually a legal requirement for relevant companies to respond. The Research Council is involved too.
What exactly are they trying to measure with this survey?
They want to know the scale of investment, where the money comes from, how many people work in R&D, and in which scientific fields the work is happening.
How do the Faroes usually stack up against other Nordic countries in R&D spend? And what are the recent numbers?
Well, past surveys showed the Faroes spent the lowest percentage of GDP on R&D among Nordic countries. For 2023, the figure was 367 million Danish kroner. That's about 1.4% of GDP. It's still a potential challenge maybe for diversifying the economy beyond fishing long-term. Could affect innovation compared to neighbors.
Has that figure changed recently, say from 2022 to 2023?
Yes, it actually went down. Total R&D spending dropped by 12.5%. That's DKK 52 million. And that decrease was mostly driven by the private sector. Their spending fell by almost 21%, also DKK 52 million.
Interesting. What about the public sector and higher education? Did their spending drop too?
No, the opposite happened there. Even with the private sector dip, it still makes up over 2/3 of total R&D spending, about 0.9% of GDP. But the public sector and higher education, Their combined spending actually increased by 13%. They now account for 0.3% and 0.2% of GDP, respectively. So a bit of a shift in where the investment is coming from.
Okay, clear picture there. Let's shift to legislation. Data retention rules, what's happening with that?
The Ministry of Justice is working on it. It's in response to a parliamentary inquiry. They're looking to implement data retention rules.
What would that mean in practice? For telecom companies, for users?
It would mean telecom companies have to log and store certain internet usage data for end users, things like IP addresses, for a set period. Legally, it seems this can be done via an ordinance under the Administration of Justice Act.
Are they working with Denmark on this?
Yes, they're collaborating with the Danish Ministry of Justice. They're calling it a common issue, which implies a coordinated approach.
So what needs to happen before these rules actually come into force?
Right now, the ministry is checking if the Faroes telecom companies actually have the technical gear needed to collect and store this data properly. Once they're clear on that, the plan is to move forward with implementation. That update was signed off by the Minister of Justice, Bjarne K. Petersen, on July 1st, 2025.
Got it. And finally, some big infrastructure news. The Húsareynstunnilin tunnel. It's approved! Ready to go.
Yes, the Húsareyn Tunnel, a major project for Tórshavn, has got the green light for public traffic, approved by the municipality and the Occupational Safety and Health Authority, fire safety approval included.
When does it open? And what about safety checks?
It's scheduled to open this Sunday, July 6th. And yes, they did a big safety exercise just this past Tuesday, July 1st.
What did that exercise involve?
About 20 people took part: police, fire department, healthcare service, ambulance, municipal staff. They tested the whole emergency plan, the tech inside the tunnel, procedures, communication gear, making sure everything works if needed.
And the verdict after the test? All systems go.
Yes. The police who coordinate emergency preparedness gave their approval. The municipality confirmed it meets all requirements. And the final fire safety nod came from the occupational safety folks. So it's cleared for opening.
Is there going to be a public opening event before the cars start rolling?
Absolutely. On Sunday, before it opens to traffic, people can actually walk, run, or cycle through the tunnel and the new road, Havnarvegurinn. It finishes at Tjarnir. There's music from the Harmony Orchestra GHM around 1 p.m., then speeches from the mayor, Elsa Berg, and the director of Articon, John Sigurðsson, at 1:30 p.m., then a ribbon cutting. The actual opening for vehicles is at 3:30 p.m., and Faroes vintage cars get to make the very first drive-through.
Okay, quite an event planned. That brings us to the close of our Faroes News Report. Like and subscribe to Pels Fundamentals for more content like this. Sources linked below.